Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to the Random Creative. So I just watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein, and I have some thoughts. Now, I admit, my review might be a little biased because Del Toro is one of my absolute favorite directors / writers out there, so his cinematic style is very much to my taste. But bias set aside, this movie was pretty darn phenomenal. As always, I'm going to be reviewing the movie as a whole. Keep that in mind for spoilers. If you have not seen it yet, I would suggest you come back to this later because I'm going to be talking about the whole thing. Y'all been warned. So the movie starts really with no introduction, just a bunch of Danish dudes who their ship is trapped in a sea of ice when they see something kind of strange on the ice, like just a ways out. Turns out something's on fire, and there's this random guy with a bunch of major wounds, so they take him aboard their ship. They try to revive him to the best of their abilities. However, this isn't any ordinary guy. He is, in fact, the main character, or one of the main characters, Victor Frankenstein. And he begins to tell his tale of how he created a monster who's now trying to kill him. So we flash back in time to young Victor, where he's grown up with his parents. He had this really great connection with his mom. He was kind of a mama's boy, but his father was fairly, strict, shall we say? Like physically strict, to be YouTube friendly. You get my drift? We see that Victor, he's named after his father, who's apparently this well-renowned physician, and Dad just wants his boy to follow in his footsteps, so he's teaching young Victor about anatomy and biology and all kinds of fun doctor stuff that, every kid loves to learn about. Sadly, Victor's mother tragically dies giving birth to his brother William, and this is kind of Victor's first taste of the reality of death. We kind of see the beginnings of what would become his obsession with overcoming it, right? Going forward a few years, now his father unfortunately has also died, and Victor has just immersed himself in the scientific world, specifically regarding human body and life after death. William has become very well off in the world of finance, now has a lovely young fiancée named Elizabeth, who, while I loved her as a character, by golly, she has a really interesting sense of style, let me tell you. I tried so hard to take this seriously, but I just can't. What is this? Elizabeth's uncle just so happens to want to fund Victor's work after Victor's rejected and expelled by the Royal College of Surgeons. Even though this kind of blew my mind because during his demonstration, he literally shows them that he can reanimate a corpse, and if that doesn't impress someone, I don't know what will. Literally. But I digress. Victor actually becomes kind of enamored with Elizabeth, who is interested in his work, not repulsed, because, she's not like other girls. She finds insects and small life fascinating. Actually, you know what? That might explain some of her fashion choices, now that I think about it. So anyway, what he does is intriguing to her. She remains loyal to his brother, even though he kind of makes some advances towards her. She tastefully rejects him because she stays loyal to William, but Victor still keeps thinking about her. He's kind of obsessed. I'm not gonna lie, Victor's kind of a douchebag in this. He's an interesting character, but you kind of want to slap him a little, if you know what I mean. I don't condone violence, but he evokes feelings. Eventually, Victor and the uncle, who I totally can't remember his name, I apologize, but they get together, they get enough supplies at the perfect location where they can truly attempt this actual real animation of a full corpse. There's this montage of how meticulous Victor is in acquiring his corpses, which I will say is not for the faint of heart. Yeah. And the uncle actually ends up trying to sabotage the experiment at the last second, but he falls to his death. Victor's successful in electrocuting the corpse, but at first nothing happens. So he thinks he's failed, just like he has previously. However, next morning he wakes up and the creature's just standing there at the end of his bed. No big deal, just hanging out. And yet, somehow, still not as creepy as Edward Cullen. Victor kind of tries in vain to like teach the creature, but it kind of shows how generational strictness, if you know what I mean, happens, because basically Victor just tries to use the same tactics that his dad used on him, and of course the creature only gets angry, like rightfully so, right? Elizabeth and William kind of come on this chance visit to see Victor's work and like to visit Elizabeth's uncle, because obviously they don't know that he's dead at this point. And Elizabeth hears this noise down in the cellar, happens to go down there and sees the creature, who has just been chained up most of this time because he is unnaturally strong. He's tall and big and kind of scary. But Elizabeth sees a completely different side to it. She's gentle and patient with it, which totally brings about these more human qualities in it. And I totally see why she's just immediately intrigued by it. Like, I watched this with my brother, and I remember saying to him that I was kind of amazed how they managed to make the creature so attractive and repulsive at the same time. Like, I don't usually have monster fantasies, but I didn't know how to feel about this thing. And suddenly I kind of understood some of the books and stuff that I'd heard about. But of course, Victor, being the jerk that he is, he immediately gets jealous of this bond that Elizabeth and the creature have. He's totally frustrated by the lack of progress, quote, that it seems to be having in like learning speech and whatnot. And again, being the D-bag that he is, he totally blames the uncle's death on the creature, which of course makes William just like hightail it out of there with Elizabeth. And Victor just totally has this unhinged moment of rage. He just sets fire to the laboratory, leaves the creature chained down in the cellar to just die. And there's this fleeting moment of redemption for him when he hears the creature screaming his name, and he attempts to go back inside, but an explosion throws him back and actually severs one of his legs. So begins this sort of cat and mouse between the maker and the creation, which brings us back to the present, still on board the Danish ship. And during this long tale, the creature has actually managed to come on board as well. And the captain of the ship says, "I'll accept my fate because I know what kind of creature you are, thanks to Victor's story." So the creature's like, "Oh, really? Well," he gets to tell his side of things. "I'm gonna tell my side too." Now, here's the thing. I've never actually read this book, so I didn't realize that this was kind of how the story went, because I've only ever seen, like, the classic old movies and spoofs, you know, the parodies of the Frankenstein story. So, like, I didn't realize this was how the book actually went. It was super intriguing. I didn't know that we got the creature's viewpoint. That was fun. So, we go back to when the laboratory gets set on fire. The creature manages to escape, kind of goes through this, like, aqueduct thing, runs into some hunters in the woods, kind of has to fight back, but, you know, that allows it to find some bits of clothing and, like, a coat and stuff along the way. And eventually it takes shelter in the hovel? Is that how you say that? Of a nearby farm. It's set up in a way where the creature can kind of see through, like, the boards and the knots of the wood in the house. And it sees this family there, particularly the old blind grandfather, and he starts learning language and speech because the grandpa is teaching his grandchildren, so the monster creature, whatever, is like listening in and learning along with them. Now, over the course of its escape and the horrible treatment from Victor, the creatures come to realize that it's just going to continually reanimate no matter how bad its wound is. Like, so it's left with this sense of longing and almost despair, because it's just going to be alone forever, because it's just going to keep on living when everyone else around it dies. And it starts longing for family, for companionship. So when the rest of the family in this little house goes hunting for this pack of wolves that's been destroying their livestock, the old grandfather's left alone in the house, where he kind of makes a connection with the creature. Now, since he can't see, he has no idea what sort of, quote, monster is living in his home. And they form this bond while he continues to teach the creature to speak and read and learn just basic studies. But it still has questions about its origins, so it ends up returning to the lab and finds several of Victor's notes that didn't get destroyed in the fire and explosion, which basically confirm its suspicions, you know, that it was reanimated from the dead, and basically that, yeah, it's gonna live forever. Now, unfortunately, when he returns to the farm, the grandfather's been attacked by the same wolves as before. Creature fights him off just long enough to spend the last few minutes with the dying old man, which, oh my gosh, that scene got me. But of course, this is right when the family returns home and they see their grandfather's, dead body being held by the creature. So of course they jump to conclusions that creature must have been the one that killed him. It's always the monster's fault. So forced to flee yet again, the creature makes its way to Victor, who at this point is now preparing for William and Elizabeth's upcoming wedding. The creature kind of demands that Victor make it a companion so that it doesn't have to live all of eternity alone, but Victor refuses, because of course he does. Now in his defense, I do see he regrets making the creature, and he just, he never wants to make that mistake again, so I kind of get it. But just as the creature is getting ready to attack Victor, Elizabeth and William hear the commotion and come into the chamber. Elizabeth gets there first, sees the creature has somehow survived, and embraces it. But of course, Victor, being the D-bag that he is, pulls out a weapon to shoot the creature, but Elizabeth, obviously not knowing that the creature can reanimate, steps in front of it to try and protect the creature, and she takes the hit instead. At that point, so Elizabeth had gotten there first, she gets shot. William now enters, thinking that the creature's killed Elizabeth, because once again he came in and it's what's going on? My fiance is now dead, and hey look, there's a scary monster. But during this fight and altercation, he also gets mortally wounded. So Victor basically just goes mad in his grief, just keeps hunting the creature down until they reach this way northern sea, which once again brings us back to present day in the film. Hearing the story from the creature's perspective seems to change Victor, and this is his final moment of redemption. The one piece of credit that I can give him, because now this finally seems to change Victor, and it makes him realize not only what he's done, but how it's affected the creature. He apologizes for his cruelty, and the creature ends up forgiving him as Victor finally succumbs to his injuries and he passes away. The creature then helps free the ship from the ice, and we're just left with this beautiful final shot of it facing the sunrise. My gosh, this movie's an emotional roller coaster. I mean, look, Guillermo del Toro has always been a master of his craft, but I really think this movie's on a whole other level. Now I will say, this movie is extremely violent, so I know it's not going to be for everyone, and even though it was clearly CGI, even I had a hard time with the animal cruelty that was depicted. It is part of the story, it's part of what makes you empathize with the creature, but yeah, it's rough. However, in my opinion, that doesn't overshadow Del Toro's brilliance when it comes to storytelling. I have to admit, I have not enjoyed hardly any of Netflix's recent movies or TV shows, to the point I canceled my subscription years ago and never looked back. I watched this because my brother has an account. We watched through him, and it's my biggest gripe with modern storytelling, and movies like this are just such a beautiful reminder of what cinema is supposed to look like, in my opinion, of course. I had heard somewhere along the line, and I can't remember where I heard this, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I'd heard at some point that modern writers were kind of told to make sure and craft dialogue that would make sense for an audience that was always distracted, being on their phones, basically. And we definitely see that in more modern movies and TV shows. I mean, I could go down the list of ones that I haven't even been able to watch more than a couple episodes because the dialogue is just so cheesy, I can't even get past it. The characters over-explain everything instead of just allowing the audience to see what happened, and it's I don't know, maybe it's just my own personal pet peeve, but it's this isn't a podcast or an audiobook. This is visual media. It's meant to be seen. And this is where, to me, writers like Del Toro really showcase their skills, because we see things in the movie that are, in fact, somewhat explained as the narrator tells his tale, because we're hearing both sides of the story, but it's not spelled out as though the audience is some sort of a child. I think there needs to be some subtlety, or the scenes in dialogue that are meant to pack a punch fall short. I mean, this was my biggest gripe with books like Fourth Wing. When every sentence is meant to pack a punch, then none of them do. The examples that first popped in my mind with Frankenstein specifically was at the very beginning, how we see the creature get shot in the hand at the very beginning of the film. There's this close-up of its hand where we see skeletal fingers as it falls into the ice. Only several minutes later, when the creature reemerges, we see that same hand is now completely whole whole. As the audience, we're able to recognize that it can regenerate and heal itself, even though that's actually explained later. The other scene I thought of is when Victor is first working with the creature and is still trying to teach it. There's this scene where he's shaving the creature's head. The dialogue that they're speaking has nothing to do with this action, but we see through this scene, oh, creature's able to grow hair. So later on in the movie, when its hair is quite long, this feels like a natural progression. We see how much time has lapsed because we already saw it happen. We didn't need anyone to tell us, like, hey, look, it can grow hair. Although, as a side note, long-haired creature really did not help my question of whether or not I was supposed to find this thing attractive, because dang, not even the prosthetics or weird makeup could disguise how incredibly handsome this actor is. This is the first thing I've ever seen him in, but I know he's kind of popular in other Netflix stuff, but yeah, might have to see more of his stuff. So yeah, overall, this is definitely what I hope would be maybe a turnaround for cinema and TV shows in general. I'm hoping that it remains popular, that people do enjoy it, and that maybe we can kind of go back to the beginning, so to speak. Remember what made visual storytelling what it is. But as always, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear yours. Do you enjoy modern storytelling? Do you agree that it's not the same as it was even a few decades ago? And what did you think of Frankenstein? Have you watched it? Is it your thing? Yes? No? If you want to support the channel, check out the links below for access to some of my artwork and other creative endeavors. I guess my absolute favorite design that I've made recently was this drawing. It just popped into my head and it just would not leave. It's gonna be a very niche audience, but like if you know, you know. So anyway, it's in my Redbubble store, which I'll link that below. Thank you all. I appreciate your support and I hope you have a fantastic day.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah, right.
Here's a little riddle for you.
All right.
What kind of bird always says the name of our next band?
Oh, I guess, tern? An Arctic tern?
And what sound does an Arctic tern make?